Hey, everybody, and welcome to Ben and Nate's Questions That We Ask People on the Internet. I'm one half of your host, Nate Fay. I'm a licensed massage therapist with over 20 years of private practice. I'm also an osteopath as well as a master myoskeletal therapist. And when I'm not in my private practice, I'm on the road presenting for Eric Dalton and the Freedom from Pain Institute.
Hey everyone, I am the other half of your co-host, Ben Stone. I've been a licensed massage therapist for over 20 years. I have a wide range of experience in the massage world, from working as an employee to owning my own massage practice where we employed several massage therapists. I hold the title of Master Myoskeletal Therapist, and I value learning above all else, and that's why I love making this show with Nate. And hey Nate, we have a disclaimer alert.
Disclaimer alert, disclaimer alert.
The opinions and views shared on the Nate and Ben Show are our own and do not represent the opinions of any other person or organization that we may be affiliated with, work for, or contract with. The main purpose of this show is for entertainment and education, and if you feel that you are entertained or educated in any way, please let us know.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 15 of Ben and Nate's Questions That We Ask People on the Internet. And before we get into it, we have a very special guest this week joining us from Utica, New York tonight, Mr. Eric Stephenson. Cue applause. And Eric, before we get into learning about a little bit more who you are, although I think everyone knows who you are, Ben, what do we got cooking this week, buddy?
Oh man, this week we are talking about success. We asked people, do you want me to get into the question right now? What do you think?
Well, before we get into the question, I mean, we've only done this 15 times. How's your week going? What's the best thing that happened to you this week?
I'm just going to tell you guys right now, this right here is the best thing that happened to me this week. And I'm going to tell you, the internet, we need to be careful because we just might break the internet putting this much awesome together right here. I mean, I think Facebook might have some issues. I think Instagram might have some issues. We need to be careful, but this is it for me. Tell me about you. How's your week going?
We might have to change the name of the show to Three Awesome Dudes and a Microphone. Could very well happen tonight. Well, I can't top that. It would only sound selfish if I said something about me, so I guess I'm just going to have to say this is like the best thing. But I'm kicking off my seminar season this week, so I'm shooting out to... First stop is Warwick, Rhode Island on this national tour. Warwick, Rhode Island kicking off this weekend. And then off to Dewey Beach, Delaware, San Francisco, and then to New Hampshire. Who booked that tour schedule? But I'm looking forward to it. So looking forward to being back out and spreading the good word of manual therapy and massage therapy.
It's a good thing you have that Eric Dalton myoskeletal jet to travel on.
It's a good thing. It's a very good thing. So joining us this week, Mr. Eric Stephenson. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Just to pick up on what Ben was saying, there was a huge power outage this morning on social media, across social media. Today is Tuesday, March 5th, as we're recording this. So there may be something to the fact that all this awesomeness coming together was able to, really spike the internet, cause things to collapse at the infrastructure level. That's all I'm saying.
I like it. That could have been it.
Yeah, we have our first big name guest, Eric Stephenson. So, I mean, a lot of people already know who you are, what you're all about. But for those that don't know you, why don't you give us a little bit of introduction about who you are, what you do?
Excellent. Well, first of all, it's such an honor to be invited on to this show, the 15th episode, the Ben and Nate show. So thanks, guys. I think the world of both of you guys. Yeah, so I own an education and consulting company in the massage and spa industry, which we all inhabit. And I'm based in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I went to school back in 1997 as a recovering musician, which is something I know Nate and I have in common. And yeah, really never thought that I'd still be here all these years later. And as I tell people all the time, I didn't choose massage. Massage chose me. And I know a lot of the listeners feel that way. So it's really an honor to be here all these years later. I've worked with a lot of huge brands over the course of my career. Everyone from the Montage hotels to the Marriott hotels to Elements Massage. I was a guest instructor at Eric Dalton's workshop one year. So I've been able to accomplish a lot, which is really great that we're talking about success tonight, because it's my hope that I'll inspire some of the other therapists out there to shoot for their dreams and go for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one of the things that Ben and I mentioned from time to time, and I love that you said it, is that you've been a practicing massage therapist since 1997. And once again, that just shows, man, you can have longevity in this field. And Ben and I have talked about that before, right? And it was something that I was told early on in school that massage couldn't be a long career. And it was like a really dismal, approach and a dismal way to tell students that. And I thought, well, I need to have this for a long career because, like you, massage chose me and I want to do this forever. So, talking to folks like you that have been in it for 20, 25 plus years, Ben's at what, 20 years now? 20 plus. I'm at 18 plus, and we've got a combined what? What's the math on that? What's the combined
I'm not good
massage?
at math. I didn't agree to do math on this show. That
Ben,
was
that's
not
you,
part of my
buddy.
agreement.
Well, you and I, we've got close to what, 40, and then where's Eric at? He's
Let's
at
just call it
another
70. We
Yeah.
got 70 years of experience in this on this podcast tonight. That's a lot.
Wow. I mean, we're past retirement age right there.
Yeah, but we're not gonna. We're not doing it.
No, we're not retired. I'm excited to get into this topic. Nate, what are we talking about today?
It's a big one this week, and we posed the question. We posed the question on the internet because that's what we do, and we posed the question about success this week. The question reads, "What defines success in the massage industry, and how do you know if you've made it as a massage therapist?"
And there's something I always like to bring up, Nate, because I have a question for you before we get too deep into this question. Since we're talking about success, and I know both of you guys are into music, let me ask you this question. How do you know if a bass player is successful?
It's always bass player jokes. How do you know if a bass player has been successful?
His girlfriend has a job.
That's right. But I think that kind of goes for all musicians, just saying.
Yeah, bass player, drummers, lead guitarist,
Well, this one's for Eric Dalton, who I hopefully is listening, right? What do they call a drummer that just broke up with his partner?
What do they call a drummer?
Homeless.
That's a good one.
So success. So what defines success in the massage industry, and how do you know? How do we know if we've made it? I wanted to ask that question, and I sort of alluded to it earlier, right? I mean, thinking about the days of massage school and some of the things that I can only speak for myself that I was told. Hey, you're only going to have a 10-year career in this. You'll burn out. You can only see 20 clients a week because you're going to ruin your body and you're going to ruin your hands. That's what you should plan on. And so my immediate thinking back then was, well, I can't do that. That doesn't make any sense to me. I need to have a long career in this. I want to have a long career in this. I can certainly say that I sought out my own successes, but let's just get the ball rolling. Let's talk about success in the massage field and how you might define that.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was thinking about the question that you guys were going to pose this week, I went back to probably being about 24 years old. I was managing a cafe in New Orleans. I was playing music, and I wanted to eventually open a coffee shop. I thought that was my dream, to open a coffee shop. Love coffee, still to do to this day. And I remember there was a massage therapist that had her practice up over the cafe right at the corner of Race and Magazine Street in New Orleans. And one day I said to her, I said, I think I might like to go to massage school one day. And she looked right at me. She said, "You're never gonna make it." And I was thrown back. I said, whoa, what do you mean? She goes, "You're a man and this is a woman's profession. You'll never make it." And I remember after the smoke came out of my ears and my nose, I ended up saying to her, "Well, one day you'll hear about me." And, I tell that story a lot because over the years, I'm sure you guys have gotten questions as well. When I was an instructor at massage school, a lot of male students would call me and say, "Hey, look, I'm really concerned. Am I going to make it in this industry? I've heard that males really have a hard time." I would say to them, "Hey, listen, I never really encountered that. I think that you can have a hard time in any industry you're in if you don't believe in yourself and you don't really give it all you have, and it's not really your calling." But having said that, they'd have a lot of concerns about that. And unfortunately, when someone makes a comment like that, they can either crush your dream or propel your dream. And so for me, success at the very basic level was proving that woman wrong all these years later and basically being like, "You told me I couldn't do this, so here I am." And funny enough, even probably about 12 years later, when I decided to start my company, iMassage, in 2007, I had a fellow instructor that taught at a massage school, and he said, "Oh, you're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to go off and teach CEs full time for a living." And I said, "Oh, well, just watch." So I'm going to tell everybody out there that, there are people out there that want to encourage your dreams. I mean, surround yourself with them. And there are people that want to crush your dreams. And God forbid anyone ever take your power away and crush your dreams. So to me, that's like the foundation of the question that you guys have asked me. Those two things came up for me this week. So I was really happy to reflect on those.
Yeah, that's great, and it all starts, right? Having a plan, right? So I want to be a massage therapist. And then, I know I can relate to that as well. That's probably outside of the 10-year plan and only 20 clients a week. And, I got the same thing. You're a male in this industry, you're not going to make it. And so, yeah, so I would agree with you 100%. Yeah, fundamentally, right, those early years and overcoming that, just like you said, giving those folks the, hey, I told you so. That's definitely a first step to what I would define success as. Absolutely.
Mhm.
You can look at success. I mean, it's very individual. How does each individual define what success means to them? And then getting that encouragement and following that and putting in the time and the effort and the sacrifice to get somewhere. I was learning how to play foosball several years ago, and just like I do with everything, I dove in head first, talking to people, asking questions, hanging around, watching videos, doing all the things. And I came across one of the senior players in the top 20 players in the world, and he talked about it, and he said, if you want to get somewhere, anything, you have to sacrifice something in order to get better at something else. So in order to get better at foosball, I sacrificed, massage. I wasn't doing it massage as much, and I was practicing every night. But same thing with massage. As I dove in, I sacrificed other things, time with friends to learn about massage and to get better at massage.
It's a never-ending journey, right? I mean, the work doesn't stop when you come home at night, right? So Eric, why don't you tell a little bit about that, how you've grown your businesses and what it took to do everything that you've done.
So I tell everybody in my workshops, and I know Ben's heard this probably at least a dozen times, really the key to success is pretty simple, but simple doesn't mean that it's easy, and it does take a lot of sacrifice. And the golden rule that I've gone by my entire career, which I can really say has built some incredible, not just business relationships, but friendships. I mean, hell, even with the two of you, I would have never met the two of you had I not subscribed to this adage. And that basically is, I show up at everything. I show up at everything, and I show up early, and I show up with a good attitude, even when I feel like shiitake mushrooms, right? I show up with a good attitude. And when you show up for yourself and you invest in yourself like that, I mean, magic happens, right? You meet people, doors open. And I don't think that part of success is talked about enough, because we get to the end product a lot of times with success, the material part of it, the accolades, the rewards, but really it's in the small steps of, hey, the alarm just went off. You're going to hit snooze, or you're going to get out of bed. And are you going to get there? Traffic sucks. It's cold out and you've got a 30-mile drive. Are you going to do it? And you have no guarantee that anything's going to happen. So that's really been my secret to building my business, is showing up at everything and just making sure that when I get there, I'm just spreading good vibes, right? And those good vibes are felt by people, and you end up making connections that just may not serve you in that moment or that day, but they come around. And when they come around, in a timely fashion. So that's probably the biggest secret to my success, I'd say, right there. And obviously surrounding myself with really good people, right? Really talented people to help me out.
Yeah, and that's just it, man. It's what we post on social media and how we present ourselves, the behind the scenes things that are going on in our head in that moment that can make or break us in that moment, but showing up. Yeah, showing up and just leaving it at the door.
But there's got to be a shortcut, right? What's the shortcut? Isn't there a shortcut to getting there? There's got to
Yeah.
be, right?
There is no shortcut. And that's the thing I think about the hack mentality that really bothers me a lot. I mean, sure, certainly there's things you can do to shortcut some of the long roads home. But at the end of the day, I really am that sort of believer in you got to put in the 10,000 hours or whatever it is. And you got to be realistic about how long it's going to take you. And in this culture, patience is not really revered. And I would say that both of you guys know that the single biggest component of truly being successful is being present with yourself and being present with your clients and listening to them and building that relationship. Because in a world where there's a lot of people that don't even have anybody that's present with them and they live underneath the same roof with other people, right? They come to get a massage and all the focus is put on them and they finally feel listened to, they finally feel heard, they finally feel like they have someone that they feel safe with and can trust. I mean, that's huge. So I think that part of what I wanted to talk about tonight were those sort of more subtle parts of success that cause people to reflect on what it really means to them and how that's really going to play out for their vision. Because we could talk about all of the usual things that go along with being successful, but there's so much nuance in success. And as Ben said, it's like, what does really being successful for you look like? Have you really thought about what your vision for being successful is and what values drive you? Because Nate, different values are going to drive you for your vision of your life and what's going to be successful than Ben, than me. But I'm sure that we share all together this need to want to help people. We all want to serve. We all want to help. We want to help people get out of pain, help them feel better. But then there's nuance in our individual values, and those values go a long way to driving our success. So really getting in touch with what's important to you says a lot about whether or not you're going to be successful.
We got a few responses out of this question, sort of in line with that. I wanted to lead into that. And most of the responses started out that way, right? Success is very subjective to the individual, right? So some people talked about, being successful, and understand, having knowledge and experience and an income. Everybody kind of mentioned some sort of income, right? Allowing for a sustainable lifestyle. Some people talked about the success of their client outcomes, clients leaving, feeling better, the trust that they have in us as massage therapists as being part of the definition of success. Another person talked about finding a career. I like this one. Finding a career that stimulates my brain. There's endless learning, great collaboration with colleagues, which is everything that you just talked about, Eric. Helping clients feel better about their bodies and not feeling stale because there's always different clients and opportunities, and earning a comfortable living. So everybody did mention the financial aspect, but then really just kind of honing in on what you just talked about as well. So we had some really nice responses. It wasn't just about, money wasn't a key focus in any of them, which I really like to see that, by the way, because I think all too often there's pressure out there of, some therapists saying, well, I earn hundreds of thousands of dollars every year in my practice, but I never hear anything more. And sure, that's cool. But I mean, does that feel good at the end of the day? Is that what's driving you and motivating you? Money's great. We all love money, but what would you guys define? What was a successful moment? What was a moment? I'll ask you both this question, both to Ben and Eric. What was a moment in your career that you felt like you made it, or that you had success? What was the moment that you realized that you found success as a massage therapist?
All right. So if I'm being completely candid, the moment that I really knew I had arrived and sort of made it as a massage therapist, there were two of them. The first was, I went to teach a workshop, and I'm going to talk about being an instructor because I can share more about the therapist side of me later. But I went and taught a workshop in Alabama for 4 people. And I thought about canceling it because I literally spent more money than I made that weekend. I hung out with 4 therapists for 3 days. And at the end of those 3 days, I came home. I was living in Kentucky at the time, and got an email the morning after I got back from one of the participants, who was a woman who had divulged a long history of abuse, mistrust of men in general, and had really thoughtfully and gracefully and eloquently described how being in my workshop and being around me was the first time that she was able to trust a man in a long, long time. And so in that moment, not only did I feel like I had really entered into my calling as an instructor and doing what I was supposed to in the world, but to me, it was just like, if I don't do anything else in my career, that's a poignant piece for me to feel successful. So I can really say that that was a huge point in my professional career early on. The second was realizing that I had to con my parents into believing that I was going, well, I wish it wasn't a con, it was a real thing. I was going to go to Taiwan in 1996 and teach guitar lessons and speak English at the same time. So I had this grand plan. I was going to go to Taiwan for a year, teach guitar lessons, teach English, and come back and take that money that I made and go to massage school. And my father called me and said, well, your mother and I have talked about we're going to loan you the money. So at the time, I think it cost me $9,000 by the time I paid for my table and everything to go to massage school at the Body Therapy Institute in Silcope, North Carolina, one of the best massage schools of all time. It took me almost 8 years to pay off that $7,000. Chunk by chunk, $100 at a time. And I'll never forget, I went to teach a workshop one weekend, and there was a sold out workshop. There were probably 60 people in the room. And I came home and I made as much money as it cost me to go to massage school in that weekend. And for me, that was like the whole thing. I really understood in that moment that the investment that I had made, the entire time that blood, sweat, and tears had taken me to pay back the school, was all worth it, because in that weekend, everything came together. So I'd say those two moments for me in my teaching career were probably the poignant pieces of success. I do have another one from the client that I want to share later, but those are the two I'd say.
As a continuing education instructor, I love that you followed through with that class with 4 people. And we all have to start. When I started my continuing education, started that career about 4 years ago. And, in your mind, you expect everyone's just going to show up. It's like the day that you get your massage license, you expect the phone's just going to ring. And whether 4 people show up or 60 people show up, at the end of the day, you never know who's going to be in that room. That's going to completely, not only you're going to change their life, they're going to change your life. And relatable as a musician, right? As a sort of former musician, right?
Totally relatable.
You play that club, and there's 12 people in there. Man, you don't know if Rick Rubin's going to be there. And I say that half jokingly, but it's the truth. You never know who's going to be in that room. And to put on classes, not to get off topic, right? To put on classes, it costs a few bucks to put on a seminar. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and money that goes on to putting in a class. And, I had a couple classes where, that's just life, right? Life of a seminar instructor. I lost money on a couple classes, but they were some of the best classes I've ever done. And the small number, I couldn't have asked for a better class in any situation. And they're the ones that are going to go off and tell their colleagues. So next time you come around, they're the ones that are going to come back and say, you got to go to this person's class. So yeah, you never know. So I'm glad that you talked about that for 2 different reasons.
There's no shortcut, is there, Nate?
There's definitely no shortcut, man. You got to build it. It's like building your practice one client at a time. And as an educator, man, it's like one participant at a time to keep spreading the good word of what you're putting out there. How about you, Mr. Ben Stone? What was a moment that you realized that you found success?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And I don't know that I like to think about things a lot, and I don't know that I had enough time to think about this yet, because I didn't expect to have to answer that part. But, I think about, what would you do if you didn't have to worry about money? If money was not an issue, where would you be? And, honestly, I don't know that I would be doing massage. But I love the profession. There is not a day where I dread having to go into work. I love every single day that I go in. But if money were not an issue, I would still be doing something to help people. I just don't know what that would be. But I don't know, a successful moment in my career when I feel like I've made it. There's 2 that I can think of. And, you feel like you want to learn enough where you're valuable to someone, somewhere, somehow. And I remember this time where there was this instructor named Eric Stephenson, and he asked if I would be his assistant. And I just about fell over backwards. I'm like, wow, this guy thinks that much of me that he would ask me to help him. Like, that was probably one of the coolest days of my life, And then Another part of feeling like I made it was I was able to buy my first house in 2010, I think it was, after being a massage therapist for a long time. Finally, having a week where I had more than 3 people on my books, where I had a full schedule that was booked out for the next year, that made me feel like, hey, I think I'm doing something right here. So those are two of my examples.
Yeah, I love that. In the trenches, right in practice and private practice, all of a sudden seeing your book grow, right? From 3 clients a week to 5 to 8 to all of a sudden, you don't have to advertise anymore and it's just rolling along. And kind of like Eric said earlier, I want to go back to some of those people in the early days of my massage school and be like, hey, I'm a man and I made it in this profession and then some, and hey, it's been over 10 years and I'm still practicing and hey, my body feels great. Everything's all good. And yeah, so I can echo that thought, in the trenches in the treatment room. I will say though, for me, and this is just me, and I think this is more my DNA. And my dad, for better or worse, was a workaholic.
Mm.
And man, that's just in me. So I think if I had, as well, Bare Naked Lady said, if I had $1 million, but I think if they wrote that song today, it would probably be inflation. And if I had $1 billion,
Mhm.
right? But by the way, cue soundbite on that.
If I had $1 million.
I would still practice. I probably wouldn't be in the trenches, the way I am now, just because I love my practice so much, but I love being in there. And in the seminar world, man, not only having the honor to teach for Eric Dalton, right? Like if you told me in 2006, when I got my first Eric Dalton DVD that I would be standing side by side with him in Costa Rica and teaching with him, and going out on the road and teaching that work that I love so much is one thing. And I can also echo some of the moments that Eric had and just having, smaller classes in the early days and having people come back, which was just weird moments for me. It's like all of a sudden my third or fourth class and I'm seeing repeat faces. And I thought, man, these people want to come back. Like this is cool. But I'll probably say my biggest moment was 3 Costa Ricas ago. There's no timeline on that, but the first time that Eric calls me boy lovingly, and he came up to me the second to last night, and just with that real serious Eric Dalton face, and he says, "Boy, you want to teach tomorrow? You want to teach a segment?" And I was like, oh my God. I already taught, multiple seminars at that point, but now it's like, now I got to teach the boss's work in front of the boss. And that was yeah, exactly. And that was just such a defining moment in my career with Dalton and Kim Miller and that whole crew. And the text message that I got from him about a week after that I will cherish for the rest of my life. I'll share it one day. But yeah, that was the moment right there of Eric Dalton sending me this big long text message about, how proud of me he was and how he, in Eric's way of saying this, I didn't realize how good you were, boy, and man, it was just and then some. So yeah, that was a real defining moment for me.
Well, after helping you out down in Florida, I can tell you that that boy is good.
That ball is good.
Always good. And we have, and again, not to derail here, but there's just a ton of great continuing education out there. Eric and Ben are on the road, Eric Stephenson and Ben are on the road teaching. I'm gonna throw a curveball with a question here, but how do we keep the massage industry as a whole successful, right? And we talked about this before we logged on tonight, but there's an up and down of people leaving the profession, graduating, coming into it, coming out of it. What do you guys foresee? How do we keep the massage industry as a whole going?
I've been thinking a lot about this because obviously the massage industry is changing a lot. The world is changing a lot. You have technology changing everything and disrupting everything and shooting everything into the future. And certainly our profession is not going to be protected from that or avoid that. It's actually it's already happening. It is a good thing. So I think that I'm actually split in sort of a yin yang around that, Nate. If I were to answer that directly, I'd say in some ways, we need to be just like an old school sports team. And what I mean by that is we need to practice our fundamentals and our core competencies over and over and over again. So, I happen to live in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, one of the best college basketball teams of all time. And if you go to one of their practices, what you're going to see them do is shoot free throws and layups and free throws and layups and free throws and layups and core competencies of what it takes to win a game. So that's really what I built my career on, is teaching therapists core competencies that they did not learn in massage school, or they're forgotten and they need to relearn them. So I'd say on the one hand, that's part of it. I think the other part of the profession needs to look at getting rid of the things that don't work anymore, continuing to do the things that do work, and starting some new things. So, right now I'm involved in robotic massage and working with a company out of New York City called Escape that has almost perfected robotic table massage. And I know that's going to sound crazy to a lot of people out there in the listening audience, but with their launch this month, you can imagine that in 5 years, this technology will be light years beyond where it is today. And I have to tell you that it will never replace human touch, but it may augment the way that I practice massage in the future, the way my clients receive massage in between the massages that they get from me or from one of you. So I think that we need to look at the core competencies and the things that we've always done to make ourselves successful, but then also where is not just our profession going, but where is the world going? Where is humanity going into the future? And somehow gracefully put those together with conversations like this, right? With what we're doing right here.
Yeah, I love that idea of getting back to the basics. And it's a concept that I heard from Doug Nelson, who is the precision neuromuscular guy. And he talked about one of the things that we've talked about in the past is how do we get better as massage therapists? And so looking at those drills, what are the drills that we can do besides going to continuing education classes? How can we get better in our own practice rooms? How do we get better where we're at? That's the thing that I don't think a lot of massage therapists think about. You're like, oh, I know how to do massage. I don't need to practice. I don't need to learn, anything new. So I definitely, I like how you put that question, Nate, as how do we evolve as an industry?
Again, for massage to continue to succeed, I mean, I think everyone can say safely in here, when we all went to massage school, late 90s to the early 2000s, I mean, we went from many states that weren't licensed to now we have, many states that require licensure and continuing education. We went from not being recognized in the healthcare, the overall healthcare industry, from medical doctors, orthopedic doctors, physical therapists to chiropractors. Now that we're starting to be looked at as, their equals and their colleagues. Massage is being referred to more often now than ever for people with pain. So in those ways, I can safely say that's how the massage industry has grown and has continued to be successful. But yeah, like Eric said, man, the world is changing rapidly. We want to keep our industry successful.
Yeah, I love that we're looking at the big picture as opposed to, I had an idea for where we could go with some of this stuff, but, getting into the little things like defining individual metrics for success. I like how you posed, the big picture, Nate.
There could be a lot of pressure too, and I'm going to just circle back to this for a second, then we can move on. But I think there's a lot of pressure of money defining success as a massage therapist, and it doesn't necessarily have to be. Right? It's whatever your comfort level is. So for a lot of new therapists coming out of school, and I had somebody, I did a talk earlier tonight for the AMTA up in New Hampshire, and people are like, can I take a class like yours? And yeah, don't be afraid to get out there and just do it.
That's the whole piece, right? You got to get out there and you got to do it. You can't think about it too long. I mean, Nate, as musicians, we know that a garage band that stays in the garage too long eventually breaks up, right? So what you got to do is you got to go to the class and then you have to start practicing it right away, whether that's with your friends that are massage therapists. You can't think about shelving it and expect it to come to life, right? As a band, you never wanted to stay in the garage and wait for the songs to be perfect, because the band would just end up not having that creative release that they needed by going out and actually playing the songs for other people And that's what I think about continuing education. You have to take the class and then you have to go out and practice it. That's how you get better at anything. That's how you hone your skills. And some of the early massages I gave, I mean, I look at that work now and I'm like, oh my God, what was I doing? I didn't know people
Can you
paid
even
for that.
remember? Right. Can you even
People paid for that.
remember? Right. What your
Oh yeah,
first
I can
massage was
remember.
like?
Oh yeah, I remember some of that stuff. It would take me like, a whole hour and a half to do a Swedish full body massage, right? Make sure I got everything in. But yeah, it's just it is that spirit of being a beginner every time you walk into a classroom, right? Whether you're the student or whether you're the teacher, you got to go in with an open mind, an open heart, whether there's 3 people in the room or there's 53 people in the room. That's really the spirit of, I think, what we're talking about tonight.
So success can be defined in many different ways, right?
Yeah, I love how we didn't just focus on all the different little ways that we could be successful. We look at the big picture. I keep saying that, the big picture. But what are some big takeaways that we talked about tonight? What's a big takeaway that you have, Eric?
Well, I think for me, it just comes back to really defining what success means for you and having a purpose and a mission. So when I started out as a massage therapist, my mission was to go out and help people connect in community and to connect individually with their wellness. And, I'm still doing that all these years later. And as an instructor, my mission was to go out into the world and help therapists extend their careers so they wouldn't burn out. And I've been doing that now for 15 plus years, just that mission. And so I think that having a mission and staying connected to that mission is probably one of the biggest learnings around success, and biggest pieces that I keep coming back to.
To echo you, right? Success is very subjective to the individual, but yeah, keep learning. Keep getting yourself out there. Don't be shut down to learning. Ben, you alluded to that. That's when your own success can stop if you're shut down to that. Have goals for yourself. Even if you've had a long career, 15, 20 plus years, always, just keep writing goals for yourself and look to the next best thing. And don't let anybody yuck up your yum.
Well said, Nate. So, hey, I want to thank Mr. Eric Stephenson for joining us. I mean, our first big name guest. Tell us, Eric, where can people find you? Where are you going to be in the next couple months? How can people connect with you?
Yeah, so I teach a big workshop every year open to the public in Omaha, Nebraska, and the world famous Ben Stone is my assistant for that workshop. So this year it will be October 11th, 12th, and 13th in the wonderful, beautiful city of Omaha, Nebraska. And so I encourage all of you to go to my website, the letter I, the word massage, inc.com. That's imassageinc.com. I don't teach a bunch of workshops open to the public anymore. Most of the stuff that I do is private workshops for teams and individual locations. But if you want to come hang out with me and have a lot of fun also with Ben, maybe we'll get Nate out there one of these years. Hint, hint. That will be in October. So you can always write me an email too at eric@imassageinc.com. That's ERIC at the letter I, the word massage, inc.com. I love to stay connected with therapists. Of course, you can find me on social media. Facebook is what I use to stay connected with therapists. And yeah, I'm just really excited about being out on the road a lot. I do a lot of work with Lifetime Fitness. I'm out working with them a lot this year. The Marriott resorts, the Montage resorts. So spa therapists, you'll see me probably at one of your locations. And if not, then if you want to come study, that workshop in Omaha is a fantastic weekend. So that's how you can hook up with me somewhere in the great United States of America in 2024. Can you believe it, guys? 2024.
Here we are.
I highly recommend a workshop with Eric Stephenson. It changed the work that I do, but I'm a little biased. So how about you, Nate? I know you got some stuff coming up. Tell us where people can find you.
Well, I'll be in Warwick, Rhode Island this weekend. Delaware, Dewey Beach, Delaware. Those 2 classes are full. San Francisco, I've got a few spots left if you want to come to the Bay Area. And we're doing a class at the San Francisco School of Massage, and that's going to be, I'll be leading that. And our good friend Helen Hickman helps to run that school, and she's hosting me out there. And then I'll be at the AMTA convention for New Hampshire, which there's still spots left. And then we'll be in Costa Rica June 15th for 7 days with Eric Dalton himself, and there's still seats for that. that. So man, I think between us and Eric Stephenson, there's just a lot of cool stuff happening in the massage world.
Once again, I want to thank everybody for listening.
Yes, thanks to all the listeners. And thank you guys for putting on an awesome podcast. Takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. You're out late on a school night tonight recording this, so thanks for all you guys are doing for the massage profession. And for all the listeners, keep doing what you're doing because America needs you now more than ever, people. We need touch more than ever.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in for another episode of Ben and Nate's Questions That We Ask People on the Internet. And how can people find us out there?
Just go to our Facebook page called Ben and Nate's Questions That We Ask People on the Internet. Find out the question of the week and interact with us and let us know what you think and submit your own questions. Where else can they listen to us at, Nate?
You can watch us on YouTube if you want to watch our episodes. You can also tune into one of your favorite streaming services such as Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.